I can't believe that our time together is nearly over. I've been praying that these studies will make a monumental difference in each one of our lives. Can you imagine the power of a whole movement of people who actually live out the values of Jesus? It would be like the book of Acts all over again. Today I want to tell you the story of a lady named Mabel Francis. As a very young child, Mabel felt called to be a missionary to Japan, and she never wavered from that call. When the policy of the Christian and Missionary Alliance was changed to allow for single women to go overseas, Mabel got in line very quickly, and in the year 1909 found herself in the island nation of Japan, a country with a deep commitment to the ancient religions of Shintoism and Buddhism. Preaching the good news about Christ in that land was very hard. But Mabel was an extraordinary lady, and in the power of the Spirit of the Savior, she worked hard and saw some results. In 1934, at the height of the Great Depression, word came from the United States that all CMA missionaries would be recalled from Japan. The economic realities were such that a retrenchment was necessary, though efforts would be made to redirect returning missionaries to other fields if possible. After days of agonizing prayer, Mabel felt that she clearly heard the voice of God telling her to take a huge risk. Just trust Him and stay in the place to which He had called her. So she resigned from the CMA. And when the other missionaries went home, she stayed, not knowing how she would be supported. That sounds like a faith-filled risk to me. And God provided for her needs. But that was far from the last faith-filled risk this courageous lady took. In the later years of the 1930s, it was apparent that another world war was looming. But this time, Japan and the United States would be on opposite sides. Friends, both American and Japanese, pleaded with Mabel to return to safety in the land of her birth. But once again, after an extended time of prayer to seek the mind of the Lord, Mabel determined to stay in her adopted country, even though she knew it would mean classification when the war finally came as an enemy national. And with that classification would come internment, and who knew what else. Mabel stayed throughout the entire war, at first under house arrest and later in an internment camp, and God protected. When the war finally ended, Mabel had an amazing ministry to the survivors of Hiroshima and to the people of Japan whose lives had been completely shattered by the devastation and destruction of the war. When she was 65, the war ended, but she still would not leave. She was there to welcome the Christian and Missionary Alliance back when missionaries returned after the war. And in case you were wondering, she finished her career once again as a missionary of the CNMA. In 1962, now in her 80s, Mabel was awarded by the government of Japan with induction to the Fifth Order of the Sacred Treasure. It was the first time in history that this high honor had ever been conferred upon an individual who was still alive. The honor was given for her contribution, according to the official citation, to the welfare of the Japanese people in their distress and confusion at the time of their defeat, and for the long years spent in leading hundreds of Japanese to the knowledge of God, to peace of heart and mind. Achieving God's purposes means taking faith-filled risks. This always involves change. I'd like to introduce you to another person who lives those values out right now in an equally challenging world. His name is Sammy Dagger.